Howdy, everybody. How are you today? We are being visited today by Jen Cluff. Did I say that correctly?
You
Correct?
did, yes.
Who is a recent transplant to Texas?
Yes, 3 years ago. Well, 3.5 years ago now.
You weren't born here, but you got here as fast as you could.
Yeah, exactly.
We always appreciate that. And you were SABOR's Realtor Salesperson of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
And you were able to achieve this in how long that you've been a real estate agent?
I just hit my 3rd-year anniversary.
3rd year. When is the actual date? We'll throw you a party.
I don't know. It was like March 14th or something.
March
I don't
14th?
even know.
Okay.
I should look up the date.
Yeah, you'll definitely work on that. And so what we thought is, on top of highlighting you as being our Realtor Salesperson of the Year, the fact that you've been able to achieve this in such a short amount of time is awesome and spectacular.
Thank you.
So congratulations, right?
Thank you.
Let's start before you became a salesperson and a realtor.
Okay.
What were you doing before? How did you get into this? Like, what was it that said, you know what? I think I'll go sell real estate. That sounds like a good time.
Yeah. Honestly, so I homeschool my kids. I always knew I wanted to homeschool them. My husband was in the military, so I knew he was going to make very little money. And I was like, I need to find a way to be able to be home with my kids, have a flexible schedule, but still make some money to allow us to live beyond what the military says we should live. So that's what drew me into real estate. And I think that's what draws a lot of people into real estate. You think you're going to make a lot of money. You think you're going to make it pretty easy. And you think you're going to have a really flexible schedule. And obviously I was very wrong, but that's what drew me in. And then stuff's evolved a lot.
So we'll get into why it's wrong, but
Yes.
What were you doing before?
I've done a lot of things before.
Okay.
So like most military spouses, I had to reinvent myself a lot with every PCS. Back home in Canada, I was actually a licensed psychologist, and I knew I was not going to do that in the States because I had to relicense in every state. California wanted 2 more graduate years and 3,000 hours, and I had little babies at home, so there was no way that was happening. I've worked in banking, I've worked in human resources, I worked for a healthcare coordination company, and that's what I was doing. I was working remotely for a healthcare coordination company while I was taking my real estate courses. So as soon as we got to Texas, I knew it was actually my 3rd time in Texas, but my 1st time in San Antonio.
Got it.
And we were just short a little while in Lubbock and San Angelo. And then as soon as we got here, I knew like, this is going to be home. We're going to be here forever. I can finally do real estate. Because we'd always done like live-in flips and things like that. A lot of real estate, or a lot of military people are interested in real estate, right? Because you move so much. So it makes sense. So I was like, I want my license. Like, I want to be able to actually do this. So.
But you never did sales, right? Like,
No,
of all
no,
that
no.
list of things,
No.
I mean, psychologist, I would argue, makes
I
you
use that all
really
the time.
good to talk to people,
Yes.
especially in these high-stress deals, right? So,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So then you decided, you know what, this is going to be your forever city, which we're glad you are, and you've decided it. But you said, did you have that perception that Netflix and Bravo have created that, oh my God, everyone here makes so much money. It's so easy. I can just pick sales out of the tree. Like,
I mean, there's definitely times, because we sold a lot as we moved around, right? So there was definitely times where I would look at my closing disclosure and I would look at what my realtor was making or what I thought they were making based on the closing disclosure. And I'd be like, they really didn't do that much. So I definitely kind of had the perception of like, they weren't, especially if it was unfortunately a situation where I maybe didn't get the support I needed from that realtor. You know, I had some really great experiences with realtors that supported my family and then not so great ones. And the not so great ones, I'd be like, man, they're making a lot of money for not really being that great or not really doing that much. So that was definitely kind of part of the motivation for me is I want to support people the way I want my own family to be supported. And I want to make money while I do it.
okay.
Yeah.
And now we're going to jump into those in a minute. However, you wanted to do this part-time.
Mm-hmm. I did.
I mean, and did anyone tell you, hey, you know what? Part-time is really not a traditional way to make it successful.
I mean, some people did, but one of the first women that I met on Facebook when I got here was a realtor. And, you know, she reached out and was like, oh, you're coming to San Antonio, all that kind of stuff. And she did it part-time. She has a full-time job and she made it work. So I was like, okay, my full-time job can be my kids and be at home and I can do it part-time just like her. And for her, it works out really well because her farm is really her full-time job. So I don't think she would ever kind of leave that. Plus, it just has her heart. Like she just loves what she does. And so I kind of had the belief that like, absolutely, I can do this part-time. That's totally fine. And that's also one of the things that has evolved in the last 3 years for me, for sure.
All right. So talk to us about year one. What year was it that you got in, you said?
2022.
Okay. So was that right when it was extremely busy, or were you feeling like the market was getting a little bit more restricted?
It was really interesting because I got in just after the COVID bubble was starting to burst, but people didn't necessarily know it was bursting yet. And so I got in and I would talk to other realtors and I'd be like, man, my listing, like this is sitting, because I happened to get a listing probably in the first 3 months of being licensed. And I was like, man, it's kind of sitting. I look at it now. It was 16 days on market.
16 days was sitting on the market?
That was sitting, right? And it was just at the start of like the market is going down. And then the whole time that I've been licensed, the market has just declined in San Antonio. And the other realtors were like, oh, it's fine. It's like whatever. But for me, that was really stressful. It was my first one. I didn't want it sitting. It was a FSBO that I had converted. And so I like really cared to do a really good job and that kind of stuff. And ever since then, the market has just been going down and down because I got in right after COVID.
Well, we like to say that the market is stabilizing.
Okay, fair. Fair. No, and that's true. It is.
Right,
but compared
because
to
that
COVID,
was, I mean, 2.9 mortgage rates and,
insane.
multiple offers on every home is not a normal market.
No,
right.
No. And we need to normalize. And the one thing, in fact, I was just on a buyer consult right before I came here to you. And I was talking to them and she was saying like, oh, I know someone who's trying to sell right now and they're not going to make money. What do you think for me? And that kind of thing. And the thing that I have learned along the way is you might be buying at the top of the moment, but you're not buying at the top of the market. And if you look at everyone in 2007 who was buying in that frenzy and it was the top of the moment, and then 2008, if they tried to sell, they would have lost all this money, right? And it's not so much about when you buy, it's more about when you sell. Same with stocks and all of our other investments. And so I said to her, and she's like, oh, I would have loved to have bought in 2007. And I was like, right. So those people in 2008 were so afraid that they had bought at the top of the market and it was crashing and all this stuff. But just like any other investment, if you hold on and sell it at the right time, it'll be profitable for you. So I think the same thing now is COVID was a top of moment. It wasn't a top of market. And we're just kind of going through the cycle, right?
How many listings did you have last year that you closed?
So like listings and buyers or just listings?
Let's just do both. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So total, I closed 68 deals last year. Yeah.
How many? Well, the buyers and the sellers, I'm guessing the question is going to be the same. Did you have to talk them off that way as like, yes, right now is a good time? Or were they like, I should just wait. I wait.
I actually had over 25 families last year that I convinced to not sell with me. And I convinced them to hold it and rent it instead for a year or two.
Why is that? Okay.
Because I care about doing the right thing for them.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is not a good time to sell. If you don't have to, then don't, right? If you can hold it and rent it out for a year or two and
because they were going to lose equity or they were just not going to be able to turn a profit and put it down on something else.
If you bought during COVID and you were trying to sell in 23 or now 24, there's a good chance with closing costs and commission and all those kind of things that you might need to bring money to the table. Not even you won't break even, but like you're going to need to bring money to the table. And so anytime there's a situation like that, I'd be like, hey, I know a property manager. Let me connect you. This would be a better choice for you. And sometimes people still were like, we still want you to sell. I had one seller last year that had to bring money to the table. She was the only one. And they were just moving out San Antonio. They wanted to wash their hands of it. They tried to rent it for a little while and couldn't find a tenant. And then they just like begged me. They're like, please just sell the house. And I discounted it for them. I know some realtors are like, never discount and whatever, but I care about doing the right thing for the people. And so
all realtors, every commission is always negotiable. At least that's my expectation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I made sure to address that for their needs and their situation. And they still had to bring some money to the table, but she reached the goal that she wanted to. And now, I mean, hopefully those 25 families that I sent away last year, when they are ready to sell in 2 years, 3 years, whatever that is, hopefully they'll remember like, hey, Jen didn't put just like getting another deal ahead of what was best for our family, and hopefully they come back to me.
Going back to kind of where we started, do you feel like real estate has given you what you hoped it would do, which was that opportunity to have freedom, be able to homeschool your boys and have that quality time and still make a successful career? Did it do that for you?
Absolutely. And it did it so much more than I thought it could. So my flexibility isn't what I was hoping it would be. But I've come to learn that flexibility comes in the weeks and the months, not necessarily in the days, right? And so there might be 3-4 months a year where I'm slower. And I use that time to dig in on my business, look at my systems, look at my leverage, see what things I need to learn and grow in. And then I use that time for the family vacations and for all of those kind of things. And I've just learned to be really, really present in whatever I'm doing, right? If I'm homeschooling my boys, my phone is on do not disturb. it's off in a corner and I can just like be really present with them for 2 hours. And then after that, I'll be like, okay, boys, you need to go outside and play, or I have a babysitter or whatever. And then I'm really, really present with my work. So it's not the same kind of flexibility that I first imagined, but it's so much greater than anything I'd ever imagined.
Now, your trajectory, Jen, though, from, getting in 3 years ago and had closing that many deals and, becoming Realtor Salesperson of the Year, how did you do that? I think most people are going to say, like, what was her secret sauce? What was the magic part of it all that made that happen? We know that a great majority of realtors who get into the business, they don't last long because it is much more difficult than people think. And part-time is just really hard to do. And that's the way you started, is part-time, right? Like, so you're telling me this story, I'd been like, well, I kind of hope Jen's going to make it, because it's really hard to do part-time when, a buyer wants to go see a house during the day, or, it's not a nights and weekends kind of job.
Right.
So what was it? How do you think that you got it? Like, how did you just figure it out in such a great, grand way?
I feel like, everyone's opportunity and trajectory and capabilities are different, right? But I feel like for me, the overriding thing was always, I want to treat it like a business, not a hobby. So that's been really important. And I want to be for people the support I wish my own family had, and I was able to look at some of those great experiences where we had great support with buying or selling and what those realtors did that made it so great. And then I was able to look at some of the ones that were not so great. And I was able to use all of that to be like, what are my mission, or what are my values, and all of that stuff, and use that. And then my clients have done the rest. It's all, I don't do, cold calling. I don't pay for leads. I don't door knock. I've run like 3 open houses myself ever. I don't use that to prospect. I don't do the traditional things that you get taught. You have to go do this if you're starting real estate. But my clients see the care that I have for them. I give them exceptional service, and then they go out and tell other people about it. And it's just kind of become a snowball rolling down a hill.
Can you articulate what the experiences that you had that you were not happy with? Like, you're like, oh, I just tried not to do what happened to me. And those is like, not, obviously we're not looking to know who it was, but just, can you articulate what it was that you're like, you know what, that was bad for me? Because maybe other people are doing it. And so we want them to know.
So we bought sight unseen a lot, like a lot of people who are relocating do, right? Video tours or those kind of things. One time I walked into my house to find a cemetery at our back fence, and that had definitely been hidden from me while we were doing video tours and things like that. So
totally creepy.
Yeah. So creepy.
I know that. We've seen that movie. We know how it ends.
And there was statues like standing there praying, and they're lit up at night.
Oh,
so I thought there was someone outside our bedroom window.
How long did y'all stay at that house?
Oh my gosh. We were at that house 2 years. Every
That's
house is kind of like a
long.
2-year thing, because we kind of do live in flip as we go. Yeah, so it was really nice.
So
it was
not
weird.
keeping you informed of what you were buying, like not really looking at what else.
Right. Just even things like, I'd be like, okay, we closed early because we found the house, but we are not there yet. And then I'd be like, hey, when you do the final walkthrough, can you let me know if it's dirty so that I know if I need to get a cleaning company before I come? Because I'm coming with all of my household goods and little kids. I do not want to clean the house when we get there. And I get there and they're like, oh yeah, it's totally clean. You're fine. And I get there and there's just like dust everywhere and crap on the carpet. And I'm like, were you even in this house? Like little things like that, where it's just like, not only are they not going above and beyond, but it just seemed like maybe the bare minimum wasn't even happening. And that just let me know, like, hey, I could do better. I could let someone know this house is dirty, and maybe I go above and beyond and actually send the cleaners in for them so that they don't even have to deal with it,
And at its core, it's really just about being informed, right? Like
totally.
you wanted to know there was a cemetery behind you. You wanted to know that the place was dirty, and you just wanted information. And I feel like all consumers want as much information as possible.
Much information as they can.
And what were the things that you loved when you were going through all these houses that you've sold? How many houses have you technically sold and bought?
I don't know. I added it up once, but I have a really bad memory for like numbers and facts and stuff like that.
Like more than 5?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Probably around 9. I think probably around 9. I even added it up once, like how many, my oldest is 8. And I was like, how many addresses has he had?
Yeah.
And it was like, well, do you count the place that you live for 7 weeks while you were moving and you're waiting for a house, or do you not? Like that kind of thing. And he was at like 13 addresses if I counted like the temporary housing and stuff. Well, not the temporary housing, right? But yes, we always bought and sold. We always bought and sold. We didn't rent.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I interrupted you though. So what were the things that you felt like, man, that was a really great experience and they were treating me the way I wanted to be treated?
Yeah. So one example was when we were buying in California, my twins were 5 weeks old and my oldest was 11 months old. So we had a lot on our hands. We're 26 hours from our nearest family, no support around, anything like that. And for closing, our realtor got a mobile notary. He covered the cost because we were super poor then. So he covered the cost the title was going to charge for the mobile notary. And he sponsored them to come on base because he was a veteran. We are staying at temporary housing on base. And he sponsored the mobile notary to come on base. And he came to our hotel on base so that we could sign all the closing documents. And I didn't have to pack up all my babies and go to the title office to close. And like, for me, that like such a small thing, like that really for him in the grand scheme of his business and his day, it really was such a small thing. But for me as a mom who's totally overwhelmed, just moved across the country, has way too many babies who are way too young, it meant the world to me, right? And that bought my loyalty to him. Like I was like, man, he is great. Look at this. This is so great that he did this for me. And the number of times that I recommended him and then have since sent him referrals once I've been licensed, I've given him a lot of business, but he earned it. He earned it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I think, going back to being a psychologist and not really doing traditional leads or cold calling, what do you think it is that has allowed you to thrive and have so many referral businesses and, just nurture that many deals that you've been able to close? I
think it's exactly that kind of thing, right? Like looking at that example that he did and just knowing like, I need to be competent in what I'm doing. I need to make sure I'm not hiding material defects or I'm making sure my clients are informed.
No, definitely not.
Yep, like that, right? And then above that, I need to be going above and beyond. I need to be anticipating their needs and saying like, how can I make this a little bit easier for them? I had a client last month who actually didn't end up buying with me. They were trying to do a 1031 exchange and stuff just wasn't working out. And at the end of the transaction, they own over 70 doors. They've been in real estate investing forever. And at the end of the transaction, when they were quote unquote firing me and saying like, hey, we're going to do this investment instead of real estate, so we're not using you. They said, this is the best service we've ever had in 40 years of real estate. Thank you so much. And like, that meant so much to me. That meant more to me than like if they'd actually closed on a transaction, because that meant to me that I was doing my job. And I have really high expectations of people, but I also have really high expectations of myself. And I don't expect anything of others that I don't expect of myself. And so to be able to be the best service they've had in 40 years of real estate and who knows how many transactions, like they currently have over 70 doors. I don't know how many they've bought and sold over 40 years, but a lot. That just meant the world to me. So
let's put that in steps. Right? Yeah. Like, so it's the best experience they've ever had. And you mentioned earlier, like, hey, I've learned as you've gotten more busy to put in processes and the kind of thing. Is there a checklist?
Oh, like, there's so many checklists.
Like that. I'm assuming that checklist is the goal though, right? Like call them again, follow up the email. Like what do you think is on that checklist that makes them feel it was the best experience?
There's a lot of different checklists. I have a lot of SOPs.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean,
why do you have so many checklists? Should there just be one checklist? I'm confused.
No, are you kidding? No.
I don't know. Like, there's
well, like there's checklists.
There's a life checklist, I guess. Yeah.
No, but there's like a checklist for a pre-owned buyer. There's a checklist for a new construction buyer. Okay. There's a checklist for a renter. I don't do renters, but I now have agents that I refer them to on my team. Right. There's a checklist for a seller. There's checklists for a seller that's in a really old community versus in a new build community. Like, because the preparation that I need to do, I need to be going out and finding out what the incentives are that the builders have, and
these are very customized. Right? Then, like you have a persona for each of your clients.
Yes, absolutely. And you need to know. I mean, ultimately, you need to know what people like, who they are, and what they need. Otherwise, you won't be able to support them, right? And so, if you're not reading the room and getting to know your client, you're not going to know how to support them. And you could spin your wheel working so hard. It's not about working harder. It's not about like, there's probably realtors out there who might work as many or more hours than me, but maybe it's not focusing on the things that are going to be the most productive, right? So I have a lot of checklists. I have a lot of SOPs. I treat my business like a business, not a hobby. And that's really important. I know my profit and loss every quarter. Like all of that is really, really important for me. And it's just, I have an intake form. I have a seller's form. Before I even have that first conversation with someone, they have filled that out. They've received information from me. They've received my buyer's guide or my seller's guide. I've got 2 different seller's guides. Like I've very systemized now, but it's stuff that I've done as I've grown and realized like, I need to get more leverage and support.
Is there a universal box on every checklist?
I mean, there's some for sure, right?
Yeah.
Like Do they have a pre-approval? There's some universal boxes that apply.
But I mean more like the universal box that's above and beyond. Like, hey, making stuff up. Make sure to send the cleaning person beforehand. Make sure to send cookies at a week after. Like the things that go above and beyond.
I mean, I hold a quarterly client event.
Okay.
And so making sure that they get added to the list for that is definitely on every checklist, no matter who. Well, unless they're sellers and they've moved away, and then they don't get invited to my events. But so there's things like that. But really, to truly go above and beyond and be able to know how to help them, it's going to be very individualized, right? Like kind of like a concierge service, everyone's going to need something different. And what's above and beyond to me is not going to be above and beyond to you. And so that's why I say, like, you need to get to know your client. You need to be able to read the room. You need to be able to listen to what they're saying, but also to what they're not saying in those consult calls, and really be like, okay, well, they say this, but it actually seems like they're really scared about this, or they really,
How do you get to know your clients? I mean, is it that sheet that you send them ahead of time? Is it just one-on-one conversations? Is it while you're showing on properties or walking through their property that they may list?
Yeah.
Just those conversations. How do you get to know?
I think it's a combination of all of the above, especially when you're at the point where you're leveraging. So I'm at the point now where I have a showing partner, and I don't typically show homes anymore. I don't have time. When you're doing 68 in a year, you don't have time to be showing homes and going to 28 homes in a weekend when you're going to new builders and all of that kind of stuff. And so it's really making sure that any communication I have with them, I'm really tuned in, and I'm really making sure that I'm aware of what they're saying, and more importantly, what they're not saying, right? And I can feel like, oh, she's feeling really stressed about this. I want to make sure I pick up the phone and kind of reach out to her about it and just say like, hey, I just want to check in where things are at. And then obviously during the transaction, I make sure that we have checklists and SOPs for how often I'm reaching out and what kind of updates I'm giving them, or all of that kind of stuff as well.
Is there any other habit systems that you feel you've implemented in these 3 years that have made you successful?
I mean, now to the point of success where I'm currently at, leverage has been key. So
what do you mean by leverage has been key? Like taking other partners, or using other people? Like who are you leveraging?
Yes and yes.
You're all like all of the above.
All of the above. So I started with, so story time. I
like a good story.
Right. I joined a team in the fall of 2022 because I realized I was getting too busy and I needed some support. And they had a transaction coordinator. I saw this realtor's name around a lot. And so I was like, oh, this is going to be great. They said they help show for each other sometimes. It was exactly the like, oh, here's the extra flexibility I want while still being busy. That team was an interesting experience for me. It wasn't a team that, yes, interesting experience. Okay. It wasn't a team that gave any leads or anything like that. It gave me the transaction coordinator. And she was so phenomenal that I stayed on that team because of her. She became my lifeblood. I was like, I need this woman in my life. I need her in my business. She's amazing. And there were many times I thought about leaving the team, but I stayed because of her. And then in November of 23, the team lead had moved to another state and was trying to do real estate in both states. And some drama happened with her and another realtor, and she up and quit real estate in one day. Quit real estate in both states, dismantled the team, and said, you have 3 days to figure something out and find a new brokerage. And I was like, okay, here I go. Yeah. But that also left her TC needing a job. Yep. Scooped right in. And so I was like, hey, why don't I start my own team? Why don't I try this? And at first my own team was me, she's now my operations manager, but she was my TC at the time, my TC, and one of my clients who had come to me and said, hey, I want to get involved in real estate. I'm getting my license. I want you to mentor me and I want to work with you. And that was it. That was our little team of 3. And so that's how we started. So that was in November of 23, November, December of 23. And then since then, we've just kept adding and growing. And I haven't been adding and growing producing agents because I care more about building my bench before I don't want warm bodies on my team. Warm bodies can't give the kind of personal service that I give. Warm bodies is just a way for me to make some money, but I can't pay the attention to them or meet their needs. And so I have 2 producing agents, and that is it. But I have 5 people in the background that are helping support us. And that has been vital in making sure that everything is running smoothly and we have all the support that we need. And I'll eventually continue to get more producing agents that I grow.
But your ratio of people in the background is always going to be more.
Always going to be more.
Okay.
Always going to be more.
Because you think that allows you to give custom concierge service.
Yeah. And it allows my agents to have the support that they need too, right? They need access to me, but if they also have my operations manager who's licensed and totally brilliant, and if they have a TC then they don't need to come to me as often because the TC can do this, or my operations manager can answer that, or things like that. So for me, it's really important to make sure. And obviously I had to add these things a little as a time as I did more business, because you can't afford all of that at first, right? So that's why at first it was just me. We were just kind of going along.
And what did you leverage then?
I mean, so probably 6 months in, I decided to hire a pay-per-file TC, and that was my first piece of leverage that I ever did, was hire a pay-per-file TC. Okay. And that was really comfortable for me because I was like, oh, I don't have to pay anyone a salary and I don't have to whatever. And if I make money, he makes money. But if I'm not making money, I don't owe him anything. So that was the first bit of leverage that I ever did.
Okay. Is there is there some tools, tech that you just swear by?
So that's what's interesting too.
Okay.
Is because I've spent a lot of my real estate career, the whole long 3 years of it, reinventing the wheel a little bit. And I've been looking to stop doing that as I grow. So literally up until right now, we are currently onboarding with a CRM at the moment, but up until right now, we've used Google Sheets for my entire CRM and my entire database.
You've used a spreadsheet this entire time for all 3 years.
Yes. I absolutely
I'm sorry.
have.
I'm laughing with you.
It's okay. It's okay. I know I'm not normal.
But so,
No.
how did you make it work?
I mean, the spreadsheet and the calendar, those two things.
That's your tools. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't need anything fancy.
No.
Automatic emails.
No.
Let me be able to filter by this.
Mm-mm. You can schedule emails in your email account. You can put stuff in your calendar. And
I'm assuming that's also Google.
Everything's Google. G Suite is my, yes. So it's all,
But now, so most people would say, we always have these conversations about AI, and I always tell people like, hey, AI is not going to take your job, but the person who knows how to use AI will.
Sure.
And I stand by that.
Sure.
Do you think you could have done more if you would have
sure.
absolutely leveraged more technology sooner?
Absolutely.
So you're not saying you didn't need it or you don't need it. You're just saying,
this is what I did.
This is what I did.
For
But you're
better or for
hopeful
worse.
now. If you use it more now, you think you may be exponential.
And now we are getting a CRM because there's more automatic things that are happening with it.
Okay.
We're looking at a new signing platform. So there's a lot of changes that I'm bringing about now to continue to give us leverage and to give us more systems in place and make just everything smoother for my clients and for my team.
Did you wait a little bit to do all those things? Like, is there a reason?
I waited a long time.
I know, but like, why? Like, I think some people do you think other new agents like jump in really quick and they go like, oh, you know what? 6 months in, I need the CRM. I need these tools. I need all this stuff.
Yeah.
And
if you're like 30 people, why do you need a CRM when you have 30 people in your database? Right? Like that you don't need a CRM for 30 people. And that's one thing, right? I moved to San Antonio. I knew no one. I literally knew no one here.
Your CRM was just
my database was literally zero.
Okay.
It was my Facebook. It was hoping I did a few referrals my first year. And that's probably how I got some of my money, right? Is I would be like, oh, hey, my friend who lives in Idaho is moving to Washington and I'll connect them. And that's how I can get some money as a new agent and I don't have anything, right? So I think sometimes I stayed away from systems just because I didn't have the money. It was like, I'm not paying $500 a month for this CRM and I'm not whatever, right? I didn't have the money as a brand new agent who was doing some deals, but not a ton, that kind of thing. And then two, I just didn't know. You don't know what you don't know. And so sometimes you're like, man, they say if you want to make money in real estate, find a service to sell to realtors. And that's how you'll make money in real estate. And like, it's so true. There's so many like, buy this program, buy that program, take this coaching. Everyone's a coach now. Everyone does their like online class and like all that kind of stuff. Right. And so I just didn't want to do stuff unless I knew it would be good and real. And I just kind of didn't have the time as I was growing and reinventing the wheel and dealing with my family and dealing with my business and my clients and stuff. And now it's only been like the last 6 months that I've been like, okay, we need to really systemize and we need to really, I always had systems like my checklists and I always had my things like that. But as far as like a database or a CRM, I'm also the kind of realtor that I'm not just putting my neighbor in my database. And I know that might be weird and that's not normal, but I hate if someone calls me unsolicited, if someone knocks on my door unsolicited, if I get emails in my email inbox and I did not sign up for that email, I do not want it. And that will actually make me go out of my way to not use that person if they were selling a service or a product that I even needed. I'd be like, no, you're annoying. I don't want to buy that. And so I treat people the way I want to be treated. And so I don't do those things. I don't send out emails to a database. I don't do newsletters. I don't whatever. I don't actually think of myself as a salesperson. And I've never done sales before. And I know I'm technically Realtor Salesperson of the Year.
We're processing right now. This is the face of processing.
I know.
Yeah.
But I don't think of myself as someone who works in sales. I work in customer service.
This is a dramatic pause because I feel like there's someone listening and they're like, Gilbert, that's absolutely counter to everything we know.
Counter to everything.
You know what I mean? Like most people are saying like, no, like your experience may be more unique. Like you need to do these things. You need to have this. I feel like if there was someone who would counter you, they would say, well, just because you didn't do it didn't mean that there isn't value in them.
Sure. And I'm not saying there is.
Yeah.
But for me, I need to be authentic to myself, and I need it to be very organic when I am helping someone. And I like any mastermind where we're going to role play and we're going to talk about how to overcome objections and stuff. No, that gives me the creeps. I don't like that.
But what if they're trying to help you find your authentic self? Like,
What do you mean?
Like, I mean, well, so, when I talk to people, and so I used to be in trial.
Okay.
And the story was you should never go and try and be some other lawyer because they're extremely, I'm not going to be
you.
Insert personal injury attorney who has many billions of dollars billboards.
Yes.
But I can be me.
Right.
And so it's more important to be me, right?
Sure.
So maybe we need to make sure that people find the masterminds where they encourage them to be their authentic self, right?
100%. And so
and I think people should learn to be their authentic self because you clearly were successful being your authentic self.
Well, and I think that's the key. By saying that I don't do those things or saying that I didn't have the systems, I'm not saying that those things are bad. I'm saying
but that they don't work.
They're bad for me.
Right.
They're bad for me and my business. They have created amazing businesses for other people, and that works out really well for them. So I do think you're right. The key is being authentic to yourself and finding what works for you because your clients will see that too, right?
Right.
I've never pushed clients. If clients are like, oh, this house or this house and this one's more expensive, I'm not going to push them towards the more expensive house. That'd be ridiculous.
Right.
Like, no, if this house is the best house for you, let's get you that house. Or at the very beginning, I probably helped. No, actually, I don't know that I did. Never mind. I was going to say I helped a couple renters, but I never did. But I have an agent on my team that she helps renters a lot. And she's got an amazing conversion rate. She does 64% that she actually converts to buyers. And she's going to be on your podcast next year as Rookie of the Year. I promise you that. Yeah. She's fabulous.
No pressure on you.
No pressure.
Okay.
She did 15 deals last year and it was her first year.
Okay.
And I didn't give her any leads other than rental leads.
All right. So and before we completely let that go, I'm going to go ahead and validate. I hate emails, right? Like, if I get the same email from this one person over and over again, I'm like, no,
unsubscribe 5 times and I'm still getting them.
But I can't figure that out because there's plenty of people, coaches and marketing folks who say, if you don't stay front of mind and if you're not there, and there have been times like, you know what, I'm going to call that plumber because I've got that email so many times, I'm going to call him, right? Like, I think it just depends. Yeah. So I'm going to process that for a while after this, okay?
Yeah.
But now we were talking, oh man, this is what happens when I lose my train of thought. It's just so great. My
rookie, who's going to be
your rookie.
Of the year.
Yeah, and you were going to make him Rookie of the Year. So what would you recommend to someone who's starting and how you want to get them there? Like, how do you want to help someone else to do this?
So be authentic to yourself. Come from a place of contribution. This is a relation. That's the thing too. When I'm like, I'm not a salesperson, and I know that relationship is important in sales. Yeah. But if you're truly focused on the person, the whole person, the rest will naturally happen, right? And that's what I mean by I don't want to learn how to overcome objections and da 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 da. I'm happy to talk them through their barriers and I'm happy to talk them through whatever. And so maybe if you were fly on wall during some of those conversations, it would sound like I'm overcoming objections.
I mean, it has to be, right? Like if they're saying,
sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes. But sometimes they decide not to sell with me, right? Like it's not like I've got 100% conversion rate with my clients, right? Like how many consults do I have in a year? How many whatever? I have the numbers all written down. I don't know them in my head.
That's okay.
But I do look at my numbers because it's a business, not a hobby. So I do have those numbers and I do.
But hey, you're admitting, I don't convert everybody.
No, definitely not. Right. Definitely not. Because I'm not everyone's cup of tea either, right? Like the number of sellers too, where I am telling you, I will say to them, look, I am brutally honest. I'm going to tell you the truth. Here's days on market. Here's what the comps are saying. Here's what I recommend. And I promise you there's going to be other realtors who will happily tell you what you want to hear, that you can sell it for $50,000 more, but here's the comps and you can't. And I promise you I'll always be honest with you. And then they say to me, hey, Jen, we really want to list for $50K more, so we're going to go with this person instead. Okay, best of luck to you. I really do hope you sell your house. I hope you get what you're looking for. I've also had those people come to me many times 6 months later and say, hey, is it okay if we list with you? we want to list it what you were telling me, you know? And so I'm not everyone's cup of tea. Not everyone is going to choose me, nor do I need everyone to choose me. I'm already busy enough. I don't need, you know, if they want to work with me and they appreciate my authenticity and they appreciate how freaking hard I work and that I go above and beyond, then they will. And if they don't want to, then they're not my client, and that's okay. And I think coming to grips with like, not everyone is your client. You know, will I do more deals this year than last year? I don't know. My goals say I hope so, right? But maybe I don't. And even that, if I didn't, that's okay. As long as I did my best and I remained true to myself and I could be proud of my efforts at the end of the year. That's what I care about.
Somebody's starting, whether it's your new agent or somebody else, mistakes that you think you made at the very beginning that you, in hindsight,
so many.
Like top two, top three.
Yeah.
Well, the first ones that come to mind.
Letting people list for more than they should. I definitely have done that once or twice, right?
And what happened? It just sat. And then you had to have that whole awful conversation saying.
In one case, I did get fired. In one case, I got fired. And that's one that still sits with me to this day. Every time I drive past that house. It came in front of mine. I'm like, well, especially because they fired me on Monday. Monday night, I got a phone call from an agent who said, hey, I'm trying to book a showing, but it's not working. And I was like, yeah, I just got terminated. I think they might rent it out. I'm not really sure. They hired a new agent on Friday. And Saturday morning, that agent who called me made an offer and their client. So I'm like, at the end of the day, it was still my marketing that sold their house, but they don't know that. Their neighbors don't know that. Like, you know, and that one stings. That one stings a little bit for sure.
Okay.
And it's because I didn't hold my ground of like, you should not list for this much. You need to list and listen to my expertise. Here's the stuff. And they ended up selling it at what I'd originally recommended for them too. So I was like, okay, but they were one of my first buyer clients. We'd become friends. It was one of my first listings. It was a full circle moment. And I just like really wanted to help them, you know? And I was like, okay, I'll go ahead and list it for that. You know, we can price drop if we need to and all that kind of stuff. So that was definitely a huge mistake for sure.
Do you think that you mentioned you don't do the marketing, that you're authentic, that you build relationships and you care with the people.
Yeah.
But this one transaction took a turn because they were friends.
Right.
I mean, do you set a boundary to where
definitely
you know what I mean? Where you're like,
definitely.
I mean, if they're inviting you over,
I went to her baby shower.
Yeah.
Her kids' birthdays.
Is that going to make it more complicated? So businesses.
I think for me at first, it made it more complicated to hold appropriate boundaries. I think I've since learned that lesson. And so that's the one thing, right? Is I look at the whole idea of like failing forward. And it's like, if you were to ask me like, is there anything I would do differently? Like, no, there's definitely mistakes I made. But all of them have got me where I am now, and I've learned from them. And I think that's the key, right? It's trial and error. Anything in life, like just having kids, it's all trial and error, and it's all like learning and moving forward. Having your own business, being a boss, right? How many people want to start a team? Well, what's the reason they want to start a team? You know, is it because they're actually a leader and they actually want to help make the industry and the realtors better? Or are they just trying to like find a way to get like semi out of production but still make money? It's just different things, right? And so it all depends on what your goals are and if you're willing to learn and then adjust.
So what would you look for in someone who wanted to be a part of your team?
Great question, since I don't want warm bodies. I did just bring a new agent onto my team. Mm-hmm. Actually, so I can kind of speak to that.
And I'm by no stretch of the imagination trying to get you to advertise your team.
Right, yeah.
I know. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, no, absolutely not. Abort. No, right. I'm just saying, like, what do you look for, right? Somebody's going to want to leverage your success. So if you tell me what it is you're looking for, then that may trigger someone like, this is what I should be if I personally want to go and be successful.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm looking at their heart. I'm looking at, is it a good fit culturally with my team? You know, is it someone where I can already smell the commission breath on them? That's not going to be a good fit for us, that kind of thing. And then I'm unique on that. I don't provide my team with leads, right? Because I don't buy leads. I don't buy them from Zillow. I don't whatever. I I had a brokerage once that gave us some leads, and they were supposed to be very hot, warm leads, and it was horrible. I was like, who wants to do that? Who wants to call these people and work so hard to maybe convert them? I don't think that the return on investment, in my opinion, for my business is there. And so there's a lot of realtors who wouldn't want to be on my team. So just the fact that they are considering being on my team, knowing they're not going to get any leads, but that they actually care about learning and becoming the best version of themselves that they can be in their business, automatically makes it intriguing, right? So I had put up a post saying like, hey, I'm looking to add someone, People reached out, I would look at their social media. I'd see kind of how they're presenting themselves to the world, because that's what clients are going to do. And then some of them I started having conversations, and very first thing, someone, oh, you're not giving me any leads. Okay, goodbye. And I'm, well, thank you. That's good to know. That's good to know that you need that, because I want people who believe in themselves and believe that with the proper tools and training and support and coaching, that they can do what they want to do and reach their goals. And look at my first agent who believed in me enough to be like, hey, yeah, you start a team. I want to work with you. I want to mentor under you. And her doing 15 deals in her first year without me giving her any leads. And that was just us working alongside, me helping coach her and go through, here's what you need to do to set up your business. Here's how you should treat your clients. When you're driving past that client's house, shoot them a text message. You can stay top of mind without doing all of the typical things that you're taught to do, right? You can stay top of mind from a relationship standpoint and from a place of contribution. And if you do that, people will remember you and they will think of you.
So then I sign up with you. I'm not going to get any leads, but I'm coming to you and be like, oh my God, I am terrified.
Yeah.
I have these bills coming due.
Yeah.
What are you going to tell me to do?
Yeah. So,
how am I going to, I was like, I haven't sold anything. I don't have any buyers. I don't have any sellers. Like,
yeah.
Jen, what am I supposed to do? How do I get something?
Totally. So it's super important, I think, when people are getting into real estate, that they have some money saved up, to be honest, because we all know those SABOR MLS fees.
Yeah. Whoa, this took a turn.
All the fees can add up, right? Like it can be very expensive, and it might be a while. Even if you get a client right away, you're still looking at, 30 to 90 days before you're getting paid for that client. So if they already had their license, it'd be too late for me to give them that little chat, right? But I think it's really important that people be in an okay financial position when they're coming into real estate, because you're not going to make money right away. And then there's different things, right? Like if they, needed some money right away and they were on my team and I trusted them, obviously I'm going to be kind of by their side at first when they're learning, especially if they're a newbie. We're going to be going to some showings together and a blue tape together, 3 blue tapes together before I tell them that they're okay to blue tape. Oh, blue tape, a new construction.
Got it. Okay.
The new home orientation.
Got it.
Yeah. The builders don't like it when I call it a blue tape either. But that's literally putting blue tape on all your mistakes. I had a construction manager walk in once and be like, this house looks like a Smurf walked through it. And he was trying to totally gaslight us. And I was like, isn't it too bad your guys didn't do a better job so that it didn't look so blue in here? Come on. So I'm going to walk with them and I'm going to go side by side. But then they can start showing. There's even apps out there that you can help show for other agents and join those apps. There's ways to make money in real estate to kind of carry you over until you're at the point where you're reliably getting deals and getting that paycheck and stuff that you need. So we would definitely explore some of those things for them.
If you were starting all over again today, would you totally do it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Would you change anything?
No, because it's got me where I am, right? So all of the things that I did in the really hard ways, sometimes staying on a toxic team, just whatever, it taught me and it helped me grow and it's gotten me where I am. So I cherish all of the ups and downs. And I have a feeling, I'm only 3 years in, but I have a feeling that real estate will never stop being a roller coaster. Even me in my slower months, I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm never going to have clients again. And that's just the way it is. So yes. I don't think that'll ever change.
Yes. I think that it's definitely an entrepreneurial activity. Absolutely. And if you open up a restaurant, a store, accounting firm, the money's never there at the beginning.
Yeah.
It's always takes time to start to build it up, right? And then with any business, there's ebbs and flows, right?
Yep.
So
exactly.
I think some people perhaps expect it to be a constant paycheck every month, every quarter, and that's what I think some people may wonder, and I am too.
Yeah.
All right, so she doesn't do traditional marketing. She's going through referrals. Do you have a social media presence that you work through? Do you is there your nonprofit activities or other activities that you participate that becomes your sphere sphere of influence?
Yeah. So I would say one, my clients have become my sphere of influence. They recommend me to other people all the time, right? You can go on moms groups on Facebook and search the word realtor, and there's a good chance one of my clients will have popped in there and recommended me if someone's asking. And that's been amazing. And I'm so grateful they feel like they can do that. My church has become a sphere of influence for me. Kind of my second year in, I started finally having deals from my sphere where people are like, oh, she like knows what she's doing and she's doing this thing. And so, I started having people from church and stuff start hiring me and things like that. But that really wasn't until the second year. And then obviously like we try and be really involved in our community, right? Like I care about relationships and coming from a place of contribution. So one of our favorite things to do as a family is to go volunteer at the Texas Diaper Bank because they let little kids come do it. So my kids are 4 and 5. They are there sorting tampons and maxi pads and diapers and all that kind of stuff to give away from the Texas Diaper Bank. And they asked me to go. They'll be like, Mom, we haven't gone in a while. Can we go to the Texas Diaper Bank? And they absolutely love it. So we definitely try and find a way to make sure we're giving back to our community and we're staying involved for sure. And I mean, not like I've ever gotten deals from the Texas Diaper Bank, but it's so important to me to be able to make sure that we're staying involved in this community that we've chosen to make our home, and people, I said it before at the awards actually, but like it is so touching to me that people trust us with their homes. Like this is not just some real estate transaction, right? This is where they're going to get in fights, where they're going to bring babies home from the hospital, where they might have divorce, where they're going to have the most intimate moments of their life with their kids or their spouse or their loved ones or their friends and have such great memories and sometimes such hard memories. And when they're choosing us to help support them in that and finding that new place or letting go of that and all of the memories associated with it and things like that, that's a really intimate thing that they're letting us into that part of their lives. And so I think if we remember that, they'll feel that respect that we have in regards to that and they'll appreciate that.
I mean, you help people find security. I mean, knowing that there's something that's there, whether it's rental or own, right? Knowing that I have 4 walls, a roof, and it's mine is important.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So help me process this as we wrap up.
Okay.
Right? Because I have had a prior guest who was equally as successful and did it completely
totally different. Yeah.
Yeah, right? Like they were absolutely out there. They were also unique, created their own brand. Okay. They were very much their authentic selves.
Yes.
But it was very much, like just getting out there, like putting yourself out there.
Totally.
And then I have your approach, right? So, which is equally been as successful for you.
Sure.
But it's not nearly as much putting stuff out there as much as just taking care of what you have influence over your relationships.
Right.
And I'm thinking, okay, I mean, what I think is awesome about the real estate industry is that everyone can be successful, but it's about, doing what is best, what works best for them.
Totally.
I mean, how do we send people off? Like, what do you want people to know? Just having had this experience in 3 years, to help other people make it past that 3-year mark.
I think figuring out what it is for you, right? And exactly like I said before, like I'm not everyone's cup of tea. The way I do it doesn't mean that they have to do it that way. And just like the other guests, right? How they do it isn't how I had to do it. But figuring out what's authentic and organic for you and really leaning into that. Like everyone has their own way of doing things. Everyone is uniquely created for certain things, right? And so if you can figure out what that is for you, maybe you're really great at connecting people. Maybe you're really great at social media. Maybe you're really great at advertising. Like lean into that. Figure out what your strengths and your talents are and lean into that and capitalize on that. And it's just like you were saying, like a restaurant or whatever, right? That there's some restaurants out there where people might go because they have these huge marketing campaigns. You see it all the time. They do paid ads, all that stuff. Or there's some restaurants out there that might be so busy and it's just because your neighbor went and told you how delicious the food is. And you're like, oh, I'm going to go. And then you go and you tell someone else. And that's kind of me and that other guest, right? Like that's the difference. And both are good. The restaurants can still be good. It's just a different way of letting people know about it, right? So find out what works for you. Find out what feels true to yourself. Care about the people that are entrusting you to support them and show them that you care and be competent while you're doing it. And it'll work out.
How do you think people should find what works best for them?
I mean, sometimes you need to try different things, right? Like for me, I didn't try some of those things, but I just like felt a visceral reaction. Like if you told me I had to go door knock, I'd be like, oh, no way. Like there's just no way. Feel a visceral reaction to that. I'm not doing that. I know that doesn't work for me, right? So there'll be some things you automatically know, like I just don't feel comfortable with that. And not a comfort like I don't want to get out of my comfort zone, because growth is all about being uncomfortable. And I'm uncomfortable a lot as I've been growing, right? But like an actual like, I couldn't respect myself if I did that kind of thing. That sounds really bad. I don't want people to think that door knocking is like disrespectful and that they should think badly of themselves. But you know, find what works for you. You know, right?
Because that may work for somebody. I mean, being the cold knock for
I just don't want them coming to my house.
Right.
I don't want them coming to my house.
And some people would be like, okay, I'll do business with them, right? Like, yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yep. So find what works for you and what you know, everyone has unique talents. It's so good that we're all not the same, right? Yeah. So lean into the thing that makes you unique. And the people who are going to be your people, the clients who are going to be your clients, they'll see and appreciate that.
Okay. I like it. Now, I can't let you go without talking about, since you brought it up, MLS fees and all the benefits that come with membership.
And all the benefits that come.
I mean,
absolutely.
Do you take advantage of the tools that you have? I mean, you know there's a CRM, right?
Yes.
Just making sure.
Yes.
But like, do you take advantage of the tools in order to?
Somewhat. Sometimes. Okay. I'm sure that there's probably a lot more tools that I'm actually not even fully aware of that are available to me. I think also when I started, we were just coming off of COVID. So it was still
different
like everything was Zoom and you're not necessarily having to go to all the same workshops or meetings that you had to before and that you maybe have to now. So there's some things I didn't learn, but there's some things that like Forewarn is vital to me. I use Forewarn all of the time. I am so grateful that that's included with our MLS membership. I absolutely love it. I think realtor safety is super important. And then there's just times it's like, oh, what was her husband's name again? Oh, guess what? Forewarn can probably help me with that, you know? So there's lots of things. I'm sure I don't utilize them all. But man, if you look in the bottom right corner when you're on your MLS, there's so many links in there for so many things that can help you and can be really good tools for you. And there's just even things that I didn't know, you know, I learned a year later, I learned MLS Touch. I didn't even know about that until like 6 months ago. And I was like, what is this MLS Touch thing in this email? And yeah, that's so easy. It's so helpful, you know. You know,
and you've brought up some great things, and you know, we're trying to even always constantly improve, right? So making sure that the next best thing after MLS Touch is available to us. What I will say, and so is we are working on a dashboard that makes things a lot more visible, and in your face to know, hey, by the way, as part of your fees, you get all of this stuff, and as part of your dues for membership, you get all of these things. So I hope that we can talk to you next year, and hear how the year 4 went. Yes. And hopefully you'll say all the benefits you took advantage of.
There we go.
Jen, I appreciate you coming and helping us to walk through the first 3 years of being a real estate agent. You've obviously done a fantastic job. Our hope as a association is always to make all of our entrepreneurial spirit members be successful and turn this into a profession, a career like you have, because I agree. It has absolutely given you that freedom to do all of those things. Yes, more than I ever even imagined. And now it's amazing to see how my goals and dreams have changed in just a short amount of time. And with that, I don't think there's a better way to end this. So thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you so much.